Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the bearings in your NukeProof Horizon SRAM XD Freehub body. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. Right, so here we have the Freehub body. Now the first thing I'll show you is just down inside there, you can see there's a collar in between the two bearings there. Now what you need to do is just move that to one side. Now you should just be able to move it with your finger by pushing it, and as you see now it's offset. If you can't, then what you need to do is just get an end of a screwdriver, the handle end of a small screwdriver, and just move it with that. Don't be tempted to stab a screwdriver into it because it damage. If you damage it, then it will just make it harder for you to get your axle back through later if you put a mark onto it. So it's best just to use a handle end, just push it around with that if you can't move it with your finger. So all we do is just move it to offset it to one side, like that completely, and then I'll just show you the next step. Right, so once you've offset the collar in there, what you can do is get yourself a block of wood on a hard surface. Now if you've got a vise, you can stand it on top of a vise if you want to, but say it's easy just to get a block of wood, put it on a hard surface. Then what you want to do is get yourself a punch and a hammer, and all you want to do is just rest it down on the bearing. You can see the inner race of the bearing, so like there, down inside there. Then once you locate that, just give it a tap like that, and then move it across and do the opposite side, and just keep moving it around. Don't ever hit in one place. Give it a few taps and just move it around, and as you do that, the collar inside becomes completely loose and easily falls around inside. So then it's easy to see the bearing. So you just carry on and just tap it down. As you see, it goes flush now with the end. So once it's flush, it won't come out no more like that. Now you may be able to just hold it up off of the floor and hit it at the same time like that, or if not, then I'll just show you another way of doing it. So if you can't knock it out by just holding it up slightly off of the block of wood, then all you do is get yourself a 27mm socket like that. And if you just stand it on top of the socket, then we can just carry on and tap that out, and it will just fall inside the socket like so. Then you've got the spacer in the middle there, and then you've got the bearing in the bottom like that. So that's those out. So then we just do the opposite end. So when it comes to doing the inside bearing, what you can do is get the 27mm socket again, just put it on your block of wood so you can stand it on there like that, and then get yourself a 13mm deep drive socket like that, and then that goes down and just rests on the inner race of the bearing down in the bottom like that. So if you just hold that in position like so, and then just tap that out. Like so, there's the bearing in there. So what you want to do now is just clean up any old dirt or grime that's got in there inside the body itself. Wipe that around where the bearings are going to sit, clean it up, and then we're ready to put the bearings back in. Right, so when it comes to reinstalling the bearings, make sure you get yourself a couple of decent quality bearings. There's no point in putting cheap ones in there because they just don't last. So I'll put the bearing sizes in the description below, so if you want to know what size they are. So the first thing we do is I'll put a bit of grease around where the bearing's going to sit, around there first, and then just put a smear around the actual bearing itself like that. And then on the side that's going to go down inside the Freehub, what you won't see, I'll just put a coating of grease over the face of it as well. Just helps keep the moisture out of the bearing. So put a coating over that, and then we'll just sit that in place there. Now to put the bearing in, so you can get it lined up by hand to start with, so push it in as much best you can just to get it started like that. And then you can use a 20mm socket, or if you haven't got a 20mm you might have a 13/16 socket, so whichever you've got. So we just put the socket over the bearing like that, which is exactly the same size as the outside of the bearing. So never hit where the seal is of the bearing, because you'll damage it before you've even put it in. So if you just hold that on there like that, and then just tap it in, make sure it's going in square. So that's that one in place. So we just do the opposite end. Right, so now we're ready to do the opposite end. So what you want to do is get your spacer and put some grease on one end of it, doesn't matter which end, like that. And then what we'll do, just put a bit of grease around where the bearing's going to sit in the top, like that. Then get your collar spacer there and just drop it in and line it up with the bearing in the bottom, like so. And then with your bearing, just put a bit of grease around the outside of it, again like that. And then on the side that you don't see, so the inside, just to help keep the moisture out on there. And then drop it in place again like that. And then just, you can push on it, make sure it's going in square, just to get it started like that. And then you can use a 3/4 socket or a 19mm, doesn't matter which size one, just in case you haven't got one or the other to put it in with. So we just hold the socket on there in line with it, and we just gently tap it in. So you have it installed there. Just check on your finger there, it spins okay on both ends. And that's the bearing installed. Just make sure before you put it back on, put some grease in the middle there on the spacer inside and on the axle before you slide it on. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.